What's going on YouTube? My name is Marcus, aka Apostle. Today we're going to talk about some combos in Spellbreak. We're actually going to try to talk about all of them and which ones are useful, which ones suck, and everything in between. If you guys do find it helpful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Twitch stream down in the description below. I'm live pretty much every day from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if you have any more Spellbreak questions or anything like that, you can just hop in this Twitch stream and ask me, or if you just want to hang out and just have a good time, there's always some fun people in there, so be sure to check that out. Also, if you want to go above and beyond in supporting me, you can throw my creator code Apostle in the Epic Games Store while you're buying gold or any of the packs or anything off Epic Launcher, honestly. But it's going to be in the top right corner once we get into the game, so if you want to use that, feel free. You can use anybody's, but if you're buying skins and you're on the Epic Launcher, just be sure to use somebody's. Anyways, let's talk about some combos. So basically in Spellbreak, you can use combos both offensively and defensively. The offensive stuff is a little bit more clear than the defensive stuff, and in reality, I think that defense with sorceries is where they're most useful. So what you want to do when I talk about all of these combos is kind of figure out a way that you want to use it offensively and a way that you can use it to protect yourself against incoming attacks. I'll talk about some defensive stuff as we get into it just to make it a little bit more clear, but keep an eye out, try to get a little bit creative with it because that's really where you're going to get better at Spellbreak. Alright, first off, let's start with the Tornado. Out of the gate, Tornado does no damage. We can throw it on this person here so you can see. I missed, but just believe me, it does no damage. But if you do want to combine it, you can combine it with either stone, toxic, or lightning. And by stone, I mean fire, toxic, or lightning. So you can throw it down, and what's going to happen is you just can throw a fireball, firewall. It does the same thing no matter what you throw into it, whether it's the primary attack or the sorcery. But as you saw right there, after the tornado went away, this person was actually still taking damage, and that's because it applied ignite, which does damage over time and prevents people from healing. And if you throw down a toxic into it instead of a fire, it's going to apply corrosion, which does shield damage over time. Ignite does just all damage, and corrosion does shield damage. If you want to throw lightning into it, it turns into a lightning tornado and shocks you. You can actually do multiple combinations with the tornado, so you can throw down this, you can shock it with lightning, you can catch it on fire, now it's a lightning tornado. If you want to throw toxic in there as well, as you noticed, it blew up. So if you combine fire and toxic into the tornado, it blows up into a DF-nado, which does big damage. Down here, it hit them for I think 27, but if they're up higher and like right in the middle, it'll hit them really hard. And sometimes basically the DF-nado is going to have an explosion down here, up here, and it's going to explode all the way up to the top of the tornado. And as it goes up, say someone's like levitating or a tempest is like updrafting, like doing this, and they get caught in those explosions, you can basically one-shot somebody with that. It's kind of lucky, but it happens. Tornadoes don't do anything with stone, but if you want to like throw a boulder, they'll curve stuff that's coming in. So as you see, it curves the fireball, it'll curve stone, it'll curve ice. It won't curve lightning, but what it will do, oh whoa, I hit that guy down there, that was impressive. I did that on purpose, chat. But what it can do defensively that not a lot of things do is it will continuously block lightning. So there's this guy right there. It'll continually block lightning as long as you're behind the middle of it. If you shoot fire into it, it'll eat the first one, and then the second ones will go through it. It'll still pull it kind of upwards or downwards, just towards the center of the tornado. It'll do the same with toxic, where it'll eat the first bit and then let others pass through it. But lightning, it will block the entire way through. It will pull in ice a little bit. I'll show you. See how it curves ice, but the more it's charged up, the less it's going to curve because it's moving faster, so it's just going to get right through it. But that's basically all the tornado combos, which are some pretty complicated ones. Not complicated, but it's kind of the most versatile in terms of being able to combo with basically anything. So working our way down the line, we're going to look at lightning here. Lightning doesn't really have a whole lot of combinations as far as its sorcery. Since its sorcery is just this lightning strike, it will combine with other sorceries in basically the exact same way as its regular lightning. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot that you can combine with it. I will show you Toxic next and show you some of the combinations with lightning. You saw with tornadoes, basically anything that combines with lightning is just gonna shock the people in it. So the tornado, you have to be really close to the center to be shocked. But if we look at the toxic cloud, you can actually throw down the toxic cloud, strike it, and it'll shock you from all the way out here. So it doesn't have to be directly on somebody, but it will shock a big area of the battlefield. So you definitely want to be sure to use that to stun a lot of people, to disrupt a lot of people. If you're running hardened, it'll actually make it so you don't get shocked as much. If you notice with the toxic cloud here, it'll continuously block lightning, so you want to keep that in mind. If there is somebody that's spamming lightning from far away, you can throw a toxic cloud in between you and them. It does the same with ice. So if someone's trying to snipe at you, it'll do this with ice. It'll turn it into this big like turd thing, and you can basically, if you're getting sniped at, you can hide behind this and they won't be able to shoot you with ice. But what can happen that you want to be careful of is it can combine with lightning still, which will shock you, or it can combine with fire, which will turn into dragon fire and will actually hurt people near it. You don't have to be, if you're like too close to the toxic cloud, when it gets hit by flame, it's gonna still hurt you. So if you are using the toxic cloud as cover, you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of distance between you and the cloud, or else you're going to end up getting blown up. Like I just showed you, it does combine with fire to make dragon fire. It doesn't change if it's not frozen, it still just makes dragon fire. The toxic cloud also doesn't really combine with stone. It doesn't do anything. If you slam through it, it doesn't destroy it, doesn't do anything. But if you freeze it and then it gets hit by stone, it'll actually destroy it, and it'll make this frost mist that'll freeze you when you go into it. If you do catch somebody in the cloud while it's being frozen, it'll freeze into that mist as well. So that like hardened like rock little poop looking thing, that won't happen. It'll just, here, if I throw it on myself, I can do this and it'll turn to this mist and freeze me. So it does the same thing if somebody's inside of it. So what you can do as well is it'll turn to this mist if you do a frost sorcery. So if I cast this sorcery, or you say you're fighting a frost player, you can throw a toxic cloud into there to try to freeze them. But in 2.0, frost players can't get frozen anymore. But if somebody's using just the frost gauntlet and they aren't on the frostborn class and they throw down their sorcery and you want to throw a toxic cloud into it, you can actually counter their sorcery with your toxic sorcery and freeze them, which is pretty useful. Toxic also has these puddles that go on the ground. You can create Dragonfire with these for actually a longer lasting Dragonfire. The Cloud Dragonfire only lasts for 3 ticks, I believe, of 12 or 17. They just lowered the damage. I forget exactly what it is. But it can hit pretty hard, and it hits every every third of a second. So it'll hit you 3 times in 1 second. And if you throw down the cloud, you can only get hit 3 times. But if you throw down a puddle and Dragonfire, you can stand in here for a long time and take a lot of damage, as you see. So if you see puddles on the ground and somebody's like running around it and you have fire, or they get stuck on it, you can Dragonfire that and just melt them away because they'll get stuck in that. Also, with the puddles, you can, as you see, you just take damage and get slowed by them. But if you hit them with wind, they'll turn into a cloud, hit people that are up higher. Doesn't really do any extra damage or anything, but I believe it does apply corrosion. But what's kind of cool with that is you can actually throw down the cloud and then wind shear through the cloud, and you see how they're taking damage over time. That's because it's carrying the cloud with it. And so you're basically just pushing that toxic cloud onto the person. So if you throw a toxic cloud down as defense, you want to make sure that the people aren't going to like cast wind through it and hurt you, because what's going to happen is you're going to just throw this down and they're going to wind spam you down, and you're going to be taking a bunch of damage. Like, look how much damage is popping up there. You'll die really quickly. So you want to be careful with wind that it doesn't get used against you. You can use it against other people, but wind and toxic isn't really the best combination since they're both close range, but you can make it work on Tempest. Going back to the puddles, you can actually freeze them. I'm playing ambidextrous, so this is going to shoot out a frost trail anyways, but it's going to freeze into a little puddle like that, and then you could jump and get the increased ice skate speed from it. So what you can do, essentially, just pretend like there's a puddle right here, is you shoot this down. There's going to be a frozen toxic puddle here, and then you can just run and jump, and then you can like sorcery cancel for extra distance. It's nice, not super useful, but is a little thing that you can learn to get around the map faster. If you don't know how to sorcery cancel, I do have a guide on my channel. I believe it's just called How to Sorcery Cancel, so you can look that up on my channel if you want to learn how to sorcery cancel. Puddles also shock you if you combine them with lightning. I don't want to touch it because I'm almost dead, but here, I'll do it. See, I get shocked when I'm on it, and then stone will make the puddles go away. I missed it, but there you go. It's gone. Stone will also make the toxic cloud disappear. Let's see if I can time this right. So it'll block the incoming toxic cloud right before it hits the ground. So see how it's still in this little ball form? If you can hit this with your stone slam or with a there you go, I blocked it right there. Or with a boulder, it's actually just going to eat the toxic AoE. So if somebody's throwing a toxic cloud and you see it and you have a boulder, you can just throw a boulder right back at them. It'll eat their toxic cloud, and then the boulder will just keep going, which is a pretty nice little combination for defense. And it just throws people off because like toxicologists will try to throw down their cloud on you or near you and try to like vanishing mists towards you. And you can use that to just straight up counter them, and then they're caught out looking stupid. So that's always nice to do. All right, moving on to fire. We're doing this quick. We can throw down a fire puddle, which as you see just makes a little puddle like that. You can combine it with toxic for dragon fire. Similarly to the toxic puddle, it'll last longer than just regular dragon fire does, so that's nice to use, especially if you can throw down a firewall on somebody. So say somebody's like trying to get through you're getting chased or something, and you want to throw a firewall in between you and the opponent. You can throw it down, and normally firewalls don't do a lot of damage, but you can throw it down and then just slap it with toxic, and it'll turn into dragon fire for a long time. So the person that has to go through there is going to take probably around 30 to 40-ish damage, depending on how long they get stuck in that firewall. If you're like above somebody and they're cornered, or they have to come through a little corridor like this, and you throw down a firewall and then slap it, they're going to be stuck in there for a long time, and it's going to be bad news for them. So Dragonfire is like your main source of damage. Another way that you can get off good damage with your sorceries is a Firewall and Tornado combo. So what you do is you throw down a Firewall, you throw down a Tornado. They're both instant casts, and what's going to happen is the person's going to try to jump to get away from the Firewall, but then the Tornado is going to pull them back in while they're in the air, because tornadoes pull harder while you're in the air. If you're getting pulled by a tornado, you want to stay on the ground and run away. But usually people's first instinct when they take hits from a Firewall or hits from anything is to jump. So if you throw down both a Firewall and a Tornado, and then they end up jumping, it's going to get them stuck in the tornado damage and the Firewall damage, and they're just not going to be able to get out of it, because usually people panic. But that is a good combo that you can throw down. Firewalls are just going to let lightning pass right through it. Stone is going to combine with the fire and carry it, which will ignite people and do a little bit of extra damage. It can also just spread it around like this, and then it'll prevent toxicologists from being able to use their toxic clouds to vanishing mist, because when they throw down their toxic clouds, it's just going to hit any of the fire that's surrounding it and then blow up their toxic clouds before they get to use it. So it's really good for countering toxicologists. You can also throw a boulder through the firewall, and it'll become a fire boulder, similarly to if you shoot a boulder with a fireball like that. Threw that really far away, but you see it makes a big fire puddle. It's not super useful, but it's something that happens, so I'm going to talk about it. The most useful of the combinations defensively is Firewall and Ice. It just won't pass through, so it's going to block the entire firewall like that. So that way you can sit behind the firewall, heal behind it, take some potions. If they do end up shooting the firewall and making holes in it, you can just move over to the next little section of firewall, and then you're safe. It's a really good defense against ice, so I definitely recommend using it like that. If you're an ice player and you want to counter a firewall, you can actually take ice and use your alacrity trail and shoot above the firewall like that, and it'll take out the entire firewall in one shot. So that's Really nice if you're a Frostborn playing against a Pyro and they're like playing around their Firewall a lot. You can just jump up, shoot once, and it'll take out their entire Firewall, and then they're kind of just stuck in the open with no Sorcery. So that's really helpful. You can also put out a Firewall with your Sorcery like this. It's just going to extinguish everything in it. I actually haven't talked about the Frost Sorcery yet, which is one of the best sorceries in the game, at least on Frostborn. It's super good defensively. It's going to block wind going through it. It's going to block lightning going through it. It's also going to block fire from going through it. But what's going to pass through it is toxic. So what you're going to be able to do, and why toxic is the best offhand for frost, is you're going to be able to cast your sorcery and then just throw your toxic slaps out through the sorcery. Be careful, if you are playing against a toxic player, they can also go in. Stone passes through the frost sorcery, and then frost itself passes through the frost sorcery. So that's a really good defensive sorcery. The last thing to talk about is stone. It really doesn't have a whole lot of synergy with stuff like we showed earlier. It's just going to carry the flames. It can carry puddles, any flames that are around, it'll carry like that. If you throw a boulder like this, so say someone's sniping at you, this is actually pretty useful, and you're rushing them, you can block the frost shot with the boulder, and then it'll come down and it'll make this frozen mist again that'll freeze people. So if you haven't noticed so far, everything is kind of set up in a way that it all works the same no matter what. So if you combine lightning with something, it's going to shock somebody. If you combine frost with something, it's going to freeze them. If you combine fire, it's going to ignite them. Stuff like that. So it all kind of works the same, and you can just do it in different ways. For instance, if you see an alacrity trail and you wind jump, you can also make this frost little mist stuff that'll slow and freeze people, which is really annoying to a frost player if you're like trying to run away like this and somebody's hitting your frost trail and freezing you, or even just slowing you down. It really messes you up. You can also do the same thing with stone, if I can do it in time. Makes that mist as well. It'll take out the whole section in one shot, which is really nice. You can also, once again, like I said with lightning, it's just going to shock anybody on it. Another thing you can do with the frost trail is, if you're not toxicologist, you can actually make toxic puddles with the frost trail, and it'll spread really rapidly. It'll spread even more rapidly if you throw down a cloud on it. It'll take up like the cloud space plus like a couple extra little spots of the trail. So if you hit the clouds like this big, it's gonna spread all the way out to like here and like here. So that's pretty nice. Something I forgot to mention with the wind shears is they'll actually put out a flame wall similar to ice. You can take out the entire flame wall down the side just like you did with ice. If you have a boulder that you're throwing, you can push it way further with your wind shears. And then, like we said earlier, it carries the toxic cloud as well. That boulder is gone. So for defense, a good thing to do is to, if someone's sniping at you and you see they're charging up a frost shot, say this guy's sniping at me, you can just throw a boulder and the boulder will eat the frost shot and then hit the person, which is really nice. You can also throw down tornadoes to help disrupt stuff, make sure that people can't hit you as you're running away. Tornadoes are also really good. This isn't a combo, but if you are levitating up somewhere and somebody's chasing you, you can actually jump up on something like this, throw down a tornado, and then the tornado is going to pull people down so they won't be able to levitate up over the wall. That's just a little trick, not really a combination. But it's also really good for defense. I'm really adamant about the fact that defense is super important in this game, so that's why we're going over it again. Flame walls, once again, it blocks toxic. Doesn't let any toxic pass through it, even if you hit it a second time. It blocks frost, which is really nice, but then you want to be careful of wind, stone, and lightning. That'll just pass right through it. And then the other defensive combo that we had is toxic. Blocks ice, blocks lightning, blocks fire, but only for a shot. So you want to keep in mind, if you're on the defensive, if you're fighting a Frostborn, if you're fighting somebody that's just like spamming at you, that you can block attacks with that. Something you can also do with the toxic cloud is, say there's a firewall and you throw the toxic cloud through the firewall, it'll hit the ground and immediately turn into dragonfire. It doesn't have to land on the firewall. As long as it passes through fire, it'll turn into dragonfire. It does the same with a fire primary shot, so hopefully that hit. Yeah, it turns right into dragonfire as soon as it hits the ground. So you want to keep in mind that if something's in the air and you hit it with fire, it's going to turn into dragonfire. I have other guides on things like movement, aiming. I have guides on every single class. I have guides on essentially anything that you could ever want in Spellbreak. So if you want any of that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can check it out. This is part of a guides playlist, so you can check out that entire playlist and learn a lot about Spellbreak. I've been playing for over 2 years, so there's a lot of knowledge on my channel. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the Twitch stream. And if you want to go above and beyond in supporting me, you can use my creator code APOSTLE. It's in the top right corner of the screen. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you do get something out of this video at least. I hope to see you in the stream, and I hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you guys in the HoloLands.